Hello and welcome to another Magic the Gathering unboxing. So we're now on the fifth and final deck from the Commander 2014 product line. This is the green deck. This is Guided by Nature and it has Flourishing, Llanowar's Fury as the lead commander in here. As with all the other decks, it contains 15 new Magic cards. If you flip over to the back here, you'll see it just has a very short summary of the deck and a list of the 5 decks: Forged in Stone, Peer Through Time, Sworn to Darkness, Built from Scratch, Guided by Nature. And all 5 of these decks are all mono-coloured commander decks. And in the contents, 100 card commander deck, 4 oversized commander card. There's only one, there's not one for each of the alternate commanders as well. There's just a single one for the lead commander. 10 double-sided token cards, which is a new feature in these decks. The deck storage box, which we've seen in the previous commander product. A deck strategy insert and a rules reference card. Some of these I've looked at on previous videos. And as I mentioned, I think in the last video, I am planning on doing a summary video. And with that, what I'm going to just do is summarize the similarities between the 5 decks. Okay, let's get this open. See what we have inside. We'll first have a look at the commander here, and that'll give us some idea of where the deck is going. So this is a foil oversized, so 3 and 2 green, Freyalise Llanowar's Fury, Planeswalker Freyalise. It's got 3 loyalty and its abilities: +2, put a 1/1 green elf druid creature token onto the battlefield with tap, add green to your mana pool. So the first ability is caring about creature tokens, which also will ramp for green, will tap for green. -2, destroy target artifact or enchantment. So we've got artifact or enchantment destruction going on here. And -6, draw a card for each green creature you control. Freyalise Llanowar Fury can be your commander. Now I've noticed on the other decks that ultimate is -10 a lot of the time, so it'd be interesting in this summary video just to look at stuff like that as we also compare the different commanders. Now let's move on to the deck itself. So the first thing you're going to notice with this is the inclusion of double-sided, double-faced tokens here. There's our rules reference card. It's the same in all the decks, and I've already had a look at that in the first video. But what we will do is just open up the sort of deck guide on how to play this. So let's move over to that. Just so you can see on the other side of, so all of these have like a little bit of a blurb about the actual commander, Planeswalker, and also about one of the alternate cards that you can use in the deck as a general. With all these products, they've done like they've done in previous years, and they've given you like a main commander and then 2 alternates, which also form part of the regular deck. Okay, playing the deck. So your best route to victory. So not surprisingly, actually, this is obviously about elves, but your best route to victory is to get lots of elves onto the battlefield and then use spells and abilities to boost their size. A number of your elves, such as Elvish Archdruid and Azuri Renegade Leader, can make all your other elves stronger. Creatures like Creeper Hulk and Thunderfoot Baloth can turn your lowliest creatures into lethal threats, and Siege Behemoth will let you push past any number of blockers. Early in the game, producing lots of mana is your most important goal. Elf creatures that tap for mana are some of your best early plays. Freyalise's first ability gives you a mana producing elf druid every turn, which bolsters both your creature count and your mana supply, and of course doing that is gonna ramp up the loyalty counters on Freelys themselves. As the game progresses, you'll have plenty of ways to put the extra mana your elves make to good use. Cards like Sylvan Offering and Wolfbright Elemental become more powerful the more mana you have, while repeatable effects produced by cards like Wren's Run Packmaster and Predator Flagship will let you use your mana every turn. If you run out of things to do with your mana, the deck features many ways to draw more cards, including Freely's third ability. So that would probably explain why the third ability is not a -10. There's no mention of any emblems in here either, as we've seen in a few of the other decks. And also looking through the tokens, what that does is that gives us a bit of a heads up in terms of what we might expect in this deck. So we've got Tree Folk, and on the flip side, Wolf, Elf Druid, and Beast token, Elemental, so that's a 5/3, and Beast, 3/3, another Elemental and Beast, Elf Druid, it's 1/1, and a 4/4 Beast, Tree Folk, which is star, and a Wolf, so something generating wolf tokens in here, Elephant, and Elf Warrior, another Elephant and an Elf Warrior, and another Elephant and an Elf Warrior. There's also a Gargoyle token in here, so something is generating Gargoyle artifacts, so 3/4, and an Elf Warrior. So we'll keep our eyes open for whatever is generating those tokens. So first of all, we've got the forest, so just flip through these quick just to get you a feel for this particular artwork. Yeah, these are very slippery. So obviously mono green deck, lots of basic lands in here. Be interesting to see what sort of non-basic utility lands we have. And again, which cards are common to all the decks, and also in keeping in with our cycle of Titans. So, moving on to the rest of the deck, we've got Crystal Vein, land, tap, add 1 to your mana pool, that's one colourless, tap, sacrifice Crystal Vein, add 2 to your mana pool. Evolving Wilds in here, so this is the first time we've seen an Evolving Wilds in these decks. So you sacrifice Evolving Wilds, search your library for a basic land card, and then put it into the battlefield, tap, then shuffle your library. So in a monocoloured deck, you think, well, what's that really there for? What is it? It's not really fixing for colour, but what it'll do is effectively thin out the deck, make it smaller. Ghost Quarter, tap, add 1 to your mana pool, sacrifice Ghost Quarter, destroy target land. Its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, then shuffle his or her library. And the other thing, actually, I'll raise here, you get this side effect with anything that fetches out, basically anything. You've basically got to shuffle your deck. So you could argue that if you were getting particularly bad draws, and you had an Evolving Wilds in your hand, you could use that as also a way of just basically shuffling your library to hopefully get better pulls. Haunted Fengraf, tap that, add 1 to your mana pool. 3, tap, sacrifice Haunted Fengraf, return a creature card at random from your graveyard to your hand. Havenwood Battleground, so we've obviously got a lot of the non-basic lands first in this particular pack. Havenwood Battleground, enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add green to your mana pool. Tap, sacrifice Havenwood Battleground, add 2 green to your mana pool. Here's Freely's, which we've had a look at already, so it's regular sized. Let's have a look at our other potential commanders that we could use. Titania, Protector of Argoth, which is 3 and 2 green. It's a 5/3, so these are regular legendary creatures. Legendary creature elemental. When Titania, Protector of Argoth enters the battlefield, return target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. Whenever a land you control is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put a 5/3 green elemental creature token onto the battlefield. Azuri, Renegade Leader, 1 colourless, 2 green, 2/2 legendary creature elf warrior. Green, regenerate another target elf. 2 and 3 green, elf creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. Jorga Wallcaller is in this deck. 1 green for a 1/1, has multi-kicker on it. So for 1 and a green, and you can actually pay that any number of times, you have enough mana to do that. That's obviously going to affect its ability, because you can kick over and over again. So in its ability, Jorga Wallcaller affects enters the battlefield with a 1/1 counter on it for each time it was kicked. Other elf creatures you control get +1/+1 for each +1/+1 counter on Jorga Wallcaller. So it's a pretty big issue that that's a multi-kicker, and obviously when you cast that, it would be really good to have lots of spare mana around to make best advantage of that particular ability. Sylvan Safekeeper, green for a 1/1 creature human wizard. Sacrifice a land, target creature you control gets shroud until end of turn. Elvish Archdruid, 1 colourless, 2 green for a 2/2 creature elf druid. Other elf creatures you control get +1/+1. Tap, add green to mana pool for each elf you control. Immaculate Magistrate, 3 and a green creature elf shaman, 2/2. Tap, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature for each elf you control. Wren's Run Packmaster, 3 and a green for a 5/5 creature elf warrior. Champion an elf. When this creature enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you exile another elf you control. When this creature leaves the battlefield, that card returns to the battlefield. 2 and a green, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield. Wolves you control have Death Touch, so this is where that wolf token is coming from. Masked Admirers, 2 colourless, 2 green, creature elf shaman. When Masked Admirers enters the battlefield, draw a card. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may pay 2 green. If you do, return Masked Admirers from your graveyard to your hand, and that's a 3/2. Wolfbriar Elemental, 2 and 2 green for a 4/4 creature elemental, has multi-kicker on this one for green, so you can kick that several times if you've got enough green. When Wolfbriar Elemental enters the battlefield, put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield for each time it was kicked, so another source of those green wolf tokens. Creeper Hulk, 3 colourless, 2 green, creature plant elemental, 5/5, trample, and for 1 and a green until end of turn, target creatures you control has base power and toughness 5/5 and gains trample. Silk Lash Spider, 3 and 2 green, 2/7 with reach. It's a creature spider, and it has X, 2 green. Silk Lash Spider deals X damage to each creature with flying. Grave Sifter, 5 and a green for 5/7. When Grave Sifter enters the battlefield, each player chooses a creature type and returns any number of cards of that type from his or her graveyard to his or her hand. Very useful if you're playing like a tribal based deck, or you've got heavy number of creatures from a certain creature type, as in this case, I've got a lot of elves in here, and they're, by whatever mechanism ending up in the graveyard, then that's going to be a really useful card. Primordial Sage, 4 and 2 green, 4/5 creature spirit. Whenever you cast a creature spell, you may draw a card. Rampaging Baloths, 4 and 2 green, creature beast. It's a 6/6, has trample, has landfall on it. So whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may put a 4/4 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. So that's where those beast tokens are going to be coming from. Soul of the Harvest, 4 colourless, 2 green for a 6/6 creature elemental with trample. Whenever another non-token creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. Thunderfoot Baloth, 4 and 2 green, 5/5 creature beast, has trample and has lieutenant on it. As long as you control your commander, Thunderfoot Baloth gets +2/+2, and other creatures you control get +2/+2 and have trample. Siege Behemoth, 5 and 2 green, 7/4 hexproof creature beast. So we've also got a lot of seemingly several beasts in the deck. As long as Siege Behemoth is attacking for each creature you control, you may have that creature assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. Tornado Elemental, 5 and 2 green for a 6/6 creature elemental. Again, we've seen a few elementals now. When Tornado Elemental enters the battlefield, it deals 6 damage to each creature with flying. You may have Tornado Elemental assign its combat damage as though it weren't blocked. I wondered if this was in the deck when I saw the elephant tokens. So Terrestodon, 6 and 2 green for a 9/9 creature elephant. When Terrestodon enters the battlefield, you may destroy up to 3 target non-creature permanents. For each permanent put into a graveyard this way, its controller puts a 3/3 green elephant creature token onto the battlefield. Lifeblood Hydra, X and 3 green, 0/0 creature Hydra, so something's obviously giving it power and toughness in its ability. Has trample. Lifeblood Hydra enters the battlefield with X/1/1 counters on it. When Lifeblood Hydra dies, you gain life and draw cards equal to its power. That's coming from the casting cost. Beastmaster Ascension, 2 and a green, enchantment. Whenever a creature you control attacks, you may put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension. As long as Beastmaster Ascension has 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. Song of the Dryads, 2 and a green, enchantment aura. So we're now into our enchantments. Enchant permanent. Enchanted permanent is a colourless forest land. Wolfcaller's Howl, 3 and a green, enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, put X 2/2 green wolf creature tokens onto the battlefield, where X is the number of your opponents with 4 or more cards in hand. So yet another source of 2/2 green wolf creatures. Fresh meat. So we're moving on to our instance. 2 and a green. Instant, put a 3/3 green beast creature token onto the battlefield for each creature put into your graveyard from the battlefield this turn. Whirlwind, 2 and 2 green, destroy all creatures with flying. Overwhelming Stampede, 3 and 2 green, and now we have the sorceries. 3 and 2 green. Until the end of turn, creatures you control get trample and get +X/+X, where X is the greatest power among creatures you control. Collective Unconscious, 4 and 2 green, sorcery, draw a card for each creature you control. Wave of Vitriol, another sorcery, 5 and 2 green. Each player sacrifices all artifacts, enchantments and non-basic lands he or she controls. For each land sacrificed this way, its controller may search his or her library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. Then each player who shuffles his or her library this way shuffles it. Praetor's Council, 5 colourless, 3 green sorcery. Return all cards from your graveyard to your hand. Exile Praetor's Council. You have no minimum... No, sorry, I keep saying that. You have no maximum hand size for the rest of the game. Sylvan Offering, X and green. Choose an opponent. You and that player each put an XX green treefolk creature token onto the battlefield. Choose an opponent. You and that player each put an X/1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. So that's where our treefolk and elves are also coming from. Emerald Medallion, so there's a cycle of these. 2 colourless green spells you cast cost 1 colourless list to cast. Seer's Sundial, 4 colourless, so you can see we're moving on to artifacts now. It's got landfall on it. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 2. If you do, draw a card. Praetor's Flagship. Predator's flagship, should I say. 5 colourless for a legendary artifact. 2, target creature gains flying until end of turn, or 5 and tap, destroy target creature with flying. Gargoyle's Castle. This is a land, so we've got some more non-basic lands here. Tap, add 1 to your mana pool. 5 colourless tap, sacrifice Gargoyle's Castle, put a 3/4 colourless gargoyle artifact creature token with flying onto the battlefield. So that's where that token came from. Oran-Reef the Vastwood. Oran-Reef the Vastwood enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add green to your mana pool. Tap, put a 1/1 counter with on each green creature that enters the battlefield this turn. Jungle Basin. Jungle Basin enters the battlefield tapped. When Jungle Basin enters the battlefield, sacrifice it unless you return an untapped forest you control to its owner's hand. Tap, add 1 green to your mana pool. So part of a cycle we've seen in the set. Myriad Landscape. Myriad Landscape enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add 1 colourless to your mana pool. 2, tap, sacrifice Myriad Landscape. Search your library for up to 2 basic land cards that share a land type. Put them onto the battlefield tapped, then shuffle your library. That's been in the decks so far. Slippery Cast. So we've got we're using a cycle of cycling lands here. Slippery Cast enters the battlefield tap. Tap, add green to your mana pool. Cycling cost of 2. You can discard the card and draw a card. Yes, I wondered if this was in here as well. So we got Terramorphic Expanse. Tap, sacrifice Terramorphic Expanse, search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. That shuffle and then shuffle your library, because this is a functional reprint of the other non-basic land that we looked at earlier. And so when I looked at that, I thought this could be in here in the interests of sort of deck thinning. Tranquil Thicket. Tranquil Thicket enters the battlefield tapped. Tap, add green to your mana pool. Cycling green. So there's another one from another set of another cycle of cycling lands. Elfish Mystic. So we're back to some creatures now. We're going to get some probably mana generating elves here. Green, 1/1 creature elf druid. Tap, add green to your mana pool. Elvish Sky Sweeper. Green, 1/1 creature elf warrior. 4 green, sacrifice a creature, destroy target creature with flying. Essence Warden. Green, 1/1, whenever another creature enters the battlefield you gain 1 life. Llanowar Elves. Green, creature elf druid, 1/1, tap, add green to your mana pool. Elvish Visionary. 1 and a green for a 1/1, when Elvish Visionary enters the battlefield draw a card. Priest of Titania. 1 and a green for a 1/1 creature elf druid. Tap, add green to your mana pool for each elf on the battlefield. Sylvan Ranger. 1 and a green for a 1/1. When Sylvan Ranger enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle your library. Thornwield Archer. 1 and a green for a 2/1 creature elf archer. Has reach and death touch. So just to remind you what death touch is, any amount of damage this deals to a creature is enough to destroy it. And reach just means that the creature can block creatures with flying. Well-Wisher, 1 and a green. It's a 1/1 creature elf. Tap, you gain 1 life for each elf on the battlefield. Farhaven Elf, 2 and a green, 1/1 creature elf druid. When Farhaven Elf enters the battlefield, you may search your library for a basic land card and put it onto the battlefield tapped. If you do, shuffle your library. So real heavy, mana, basic land or land searching going on in this deck actually. Imperious Perfect, 2 and a green, 2/2. Other elf creatures you control get +1/+1. Green and tap, put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token onto the battlefield. So that's where our elf warrior tokens are coming from. Reclamation Sage, 2 and a green for a 2/1 creature elf shaman. When Reclamation Sage enters the battlefield, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Timberwatch Elf, 2 and a green, 1/2 creature elf. Tap, target creature gets +X until end of turn, where X is the number of elves on the battlefield. Titania's Chosen, 2 and a green for a 1/1. Whenever a player casts a green spell, put a +1/+1 counter on Titania's Chosen. Wood Elves, 2 and a green for a 1/1. When Wood Elves enters the battlefield, search your library for a forest card and put that card onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Drove of Elves, excuse me, 3 and a green, **, creature elf, hexproof. Drove of Elves, power and toughness are each equal to the number of green permanents you control. Liss Alana Huntmaster, 2 and 2 green, 3/3. Whenever you cast an elf spell, you may put a 1/1 green elf warrior creature token onto the battlefield. It's another source of those warrior creatures. Harrow, so we're moving on to an instant now. 2 and a green. As an additional cost to cast Harrow, sacrifice land, search your library for up to 2 basic land cards and put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle your library. Hunting Triad. Oh, back to more elves. 2 and... oh no, actually, sorry. My mistake. It's a tribal sorcery, but it is an elf tribal sorcery. 2 and a green, tribal sorcery elf. Put 3 1/1 green elf warrior creature tokens onto the battlefield. Reinforce 3. So I don't think we've seen any other reinforce cards in the deck so far. Reinforce 3. So for 3 and a green, you discard the card, put 3 1/1 counters on target creature. Overrun. No surprise to see this in the deck. 2 and 3 green. Creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain trample until end of turn. Grim Flowering. 5 and a green. Draw a card for each creature card in your graveyard. Desert Twister. So we've got our sorceries again. 4 and 2 green. Destroy target permanent. Skull Clamp is in this deck, and this was also in one of the other decks. I just maybe the first or second one I unboxed. 1 colorless artifact equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/-1. Whenever equipped creature dies, draw 2 cards. Equip for 1. Soul Ring is in all the decks. 1 colorless, tap, add 2 to your mana pool. As is the cycle of these. So Moss Diamond, this is the green one. 2 colorless, Moss Diamond enters the battlefield, tap, add green to your mana pool. Swiftfoot Boots, also heavily present in all the decks. 2 colorless, equipped creature has hexproof and haste, equipped for 1. Commander Sphere in all of the decks. 3 colorless, tap, add to your mana pool 1 mana of any color in your commander's color identity. Sacrifice Commander Sphere, draw a card. Assault Suit, 4 colorless. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, has haste, can't attack you or a planeswalker you control, and can't be sacrificed. At the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of equipped creature until end of turn. If you do, untap it, equip for 3. And final card, Lore Seeker's Stone, 6 colorless. It's an artifact. 3 tap, draw 3 cards. This ability costs 1 colorless more to activate for each card in your hand. And that's another card we've seen already. So there we have the Guided by Nature deck with Frialise Llanowar's Fury as our lead commander. And that's the final of the deck unboxings. As I've said, should be in the next few days. What I'm going to do is do a little summary video. It's probably going to be more, you know, I may not use the physical cards because I would need to lay out quite a bit, and I don't know what that would look like on camera. But what I'll probably do is rig something up within a document and sort of record a voiceover and go through some of the similarities in the deck, some of the cycles, where some of the land art's coming from, because I know someone very helpful gave me a pointer on one of the earlier decks that I unboxed, and so I'll go through and locate the land artwork and where that came from originally, and maybe just talk a little bit about changing out the deck. I'm not going to go into a massive amount of detail because I'm a pretty casual EDH player and I've not been playing this particular format of Magic that long, But it would be interesting to just go through and just talk a little bit about, you know, some possible very basic changes, change outs that you can make, and you know, other stuff that might make the decks more fun to play, which are going to mix up the synergies a little bit. Anyway, so there we have the final deck, the Guided by Nature Commander 2014 deck with Freya Lee's Llanowar's Fury as our lead commander. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.